Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
This is episode 1 or chapter 1 of
Mhm.
our Antler experience.
We're super excited to be here and document this entire process because I think a lot of people can, look into it later whenever they want
Yeah.
to and get a sense of what it's like to be a part of the program and frankly experience it with us. So we're excited.
Yeah, I couldn't find a lot of resources online talking about Antler specifically.
Yeah.
I remember when I was making a decision, and Antler is a global brand,
Yep.
right? So
Mhm.
it's a bit different, I feel like, in different
Parts
regions.
of the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for the Canada one, we're part of the 5th cohort, so it's not brand new, but it's also pretty recent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe
I
this
agree.
could be helpful for people
Yeah.
who are trying to decide whether they want to join the program or not.
Yeah, I also did a little bit of research, and usually it was from the other parts of the world, and I was like, but I want to know something about Canada. When I went and spoke to people, there was a lot to learn, but I was like, oh, if this was elsewhere, like a blog or like a video series or something of that sort, it would have been super helpful.
There was over 5,000 people that applied for just
Yep.
this cohort, and there was 70 people accepted.
Yeah.
And I would bet out of those 5,000 people, out of every person that applied, there's probably 5 people that considered applying and they
Yeah.
just didn't.
That's
So I
true.
feel like this could be a valuable resource.
Absolutely. I didn't even do that math. That is for sure very valuable because I've seen Antler before.
Yeah.
And I thought of applying, but I didn't. I think this was last year or something. And so this year, that's when I started looking for information. So if we can help people, then that would be great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask you, so did you apply to Antler? You knew of Antler, you submitted an application?
Yeah, I came across them last year. I did not apply, and then this year, I personally and also professionally, I think I was at a spot where I was like, you know what, this is something I've always wanted to do, like build a company. Why not explore this option? And when I did, and I heard of all the great things, I could not wait, and I applied. I think it was right after my wedding that I got the acceptance, and I was like, oh my god, this is insane, right? So then that's what got me here. Yeah. I think we should introduce ourselves.
Oh, right. I forgot to do that. But, okay, introductions after this point. So I actually didn't apply. I got recruited. Now that's the word.
Nice.
So I also wonder how they recruited me. One inkling I have is that I created a co-founder profile on YC, right? Their directory.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they found me through there, liked
Maybe.
what they saw, and then reached out to me on LinkedIn. But I got Bernie, just him cold messaging me on LinkedIn with the
Nice.
connection request. And then my interview process was talking to the program manager, Daphne, and then talking to Bernie, who's the partner, and then basically getting an acceptance. So
Nice.
I didn't have massive expectations for myself, right? I just saw it as, oh, this is a cool opportunity, and
Yeah.
I'm going to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've applied to YC in the past and I've really wanted it. And I got to a stage where I got interviewed at the last stage by their partners and I didn't get it. And I feel like when, I don't know if there's an inkling of desperation in someone's
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It comes through,
Yeah.
and yeah, even I've had that happen to me at certain job interviews
Yeah.
where I really want to get into a
Yeah.
company, and I feel like when you really want to get into a company, there's that you kind of the confident part of you is kind of replaced by a little bit of desperation where you're like,
Yeah.
usually if you're like, yeah, this is a great company, but I'm not dying to work here,
Yeah.
or like, oh, it's nice if I get in, it's okay if I don't.
Yeah.
You go in with that certain level of confidence,
Yeah.
smooth confidence,
Yeah.
versus, oh my god, I need them to like
Yeah.
me and be a part of this institution. Then I feel like there's a little bit of replacement from that smooth confidence too,
Yeah.
almost. So it's a tight line to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also, I feel like you be less authentically yourself when you're trying to impress people.
Yes.
And then also that's not
Absolutely.
so impressive when they're interviewing you, right?
And they can see right through
Yeah.
that.
They feel like you're
Yeah.
masking, so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
creates
That makes
Yeah.
absolute sense. But yeah,
All right, so we should do our intros, I guess.
Yes.
So you can go ahead first, and then
Okay.
I'll follow your lead.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Maitri, and I have been a marketer, I think, all my professional life. I started off in sales, and then I moved to marketing. And I came here with certain interest areas, but no like concrete idea. I actually did have an idea, and then between Antler, interviewing me and selecting me, I did a lot of customer validation and got on calls, and I kind of figured out it was more of a vitamin than a painkiller. So then I nixed that before coming here, but I still have interest areas that I'm exploring. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I can go on forever, but I'll stop here.
Yes, I'm also just realizing I should probably look at the camera just as much as I look at you, so that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
That's
right?
how I'm like, yeah.
Do you have experience like?
Podcasting and
Like
webinar.
recording?
I have a lot of experience doing webinars as marketers.
Okay, okay.
But yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try to acknowledge the viewers as much as possible too. So for myself, I'm gonna put this on my YouTube channel where I've actually remained quite anonymous. Maybe that's why
Fair.
I skipped my intro. But yeah, my background is I was a software engineer. Last worked at a big tech company in San Francisco. Did remote work post-COVID, internships before that. The last industry I worked on was crypto, but that's not an area of interest for me. So one of my challenges last week was I need to figure out what my convictions exactly are so that I can take the best things out of Antler that will help me fulfill my mission in life, essentially.
Yeah.
So last week our schedule was crazy with programming.
Yes.
So I didn't have a lot of time to like pause and reflect
And absorb. And yeah, I get that.
So I'm hoping to do that this week. Did you also feel overwhelmed last week with the programming?
I did. So I think what felt overwhelming.
Sorry, before you answer, I guess maybe we should tell them what the programming was. So we come to this office space called 111. It's in the heart of Toronto. There's other startups here in the seed and pre-seed phases.
Phases, yeah.
Correct. And there's 70 of us, and we basically have. Last week we got programming from essentially 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then we would also have dinners. We had a dinner as well that was from like 6 to 8.
Yes.
So
it goes way past 8, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So last week, fill in any gaps that I'm missing. It was a lot of the programming was getting to know our cohort, because one of the things that Antler really emphasizes is that co-founder formation in teams.
Yes,
right?
yeah. So it was a lot of that, but it was also a lot of like getting to know the Antler team itself.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of presentations, and I think there was also a lot of like, hey, understand this person's founder journey. And we have some this week as well.
Yeah.
We had guest speakers who came in.
Yeah.
Great, it was insightful. But the one thing where I felt overwhelmed was all these beautiful people that I'm meeting for the first time, but I didn't have enough time to sit down and chat and talk one-on-one. Like even us, we spoke before the program started on Zoom, but we never got a chance to sit down and actually have a conversation face to face. So I think that's the part that all of us were feeling a little bit of itch. We're like, oh, we want to sit down and talk. And I think they really took that in, and they changed the programming this week.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Yeah, because I went and looked at the calendar, and I saw it change. We were supposed to have a lot of pitches and stuff this week, and then they swapped it out for group work.
Oh, interesting.
So I feel like they really took in. That's one thing I really like about Antler so far. They've taken all the feedback in, and they're willing to change stuff to make it more cohesive and more useful for the founders. But yeah, it was very programming heavy. I think this week's also going to be like that, but because they have switched it out with like group work, it's giving us what we want as well. So
That's
I'm excited.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was by design that they formatted it that way, because I feel like all of us have this itch now to actually get going and do work. So I wonder if it was by design where they're like making us spend a lot of time not on the ideation and work yet, but like really just finding chemistry and common values between other
Yeah.
people in the cohort.
Yeah.
So like
That is
then
true.
like, you know, we really like build up momentum
Yeah.
and energy and all of that. But
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say they did adapt. So perhaps there was also something to be learned from that week that they
Yeah. But also I think it was a couple of things, right? One, they know that they have our maximum attention in week 1 because we're new and
Yeah.
everyone's in, so they'll be able to get a lot of information out to everyone at once. And so that was the reason. And secondly, we had a shorter week because of Easter.
Oh, right. 4
So instead of
days.
5 days, we had to squeeze everything into 4 days. So I
That's
feel
fair.
that also, you know, impacted
Yeah.
how heavy the programming was. So yeah, I think those were the couple reasons. But I'm glad we had the long weekend. Kind of really gave us
Yeah.
time to decompress, understand what's going on, or even
Yeah.
process, you know, what conversations did we enjoy? What conversations were interesting but didn't really pique our, you know, curiosity. So
Right.
that was very helpful. I don't know if all of that's going to be blown out of the water again this week because we're going to meet more people and talk to them, but we'll see. I feel a lot more prepared, I guess, a lot more organized in my head. Like
Yeah.
it was I felt a little frazzled and overwhelmed last week, midweek, because I was like,
Right.
there's so many people. There's so like every time you go to get water, you end up speaking to
Yeah.
5 people, and you're like, I didn't have a in-depth conversation with
Yeah.
any of them.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that changes this week.
I think I'm also thinking of different personalities, learning styles,
Yeah.
and types of work. So there's some people I feel like who really strive in that really shifting dynamic environment. But I think I'm like you, where I need time to organize, process, plan.
Yes.
And if I don't have it, I feel like my interactions are not as productive as they could be. So one of the things I felt towards the end of the week was I wish I had this idea I was already fixated on, or a project, so that when I got to know people, I
Yeah.
got to know them through the context of work. And,
Yes.
you know, because there's this saying that work binds people.
Yeah.
So instead of just generally asking them things, I wish that I
Just
knew
more
what I
intentional
wanted.
and yeah, that's
Exactly.
a great point. I think I felt that too. I was like, oh, should I have, you know, come in with an idea or like instead of an interest area? Because also something I realized is even if you have an interest area, like environment and clean tech is something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
The same interest area can be looked at through the lens of so many different problems.
Yeah.
And one problem can be solved in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So even if I'm talking to people who are interested in the similar area, we still don't know if we're going to pick and work on their idea or
Right.
my idea, and who's going to do what. Who am I recruiting for? And or am I trying to get recruited into someone else's team?
Yeah.
All that is still in the works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, coming in with a clear idea. I feel there are folks who came in with a clear idea. I'm curious to see how they feel about it. Do they feel the same level of confusion, or it's a little more clear and intentional for them because they know what they want to do?
I feel like from the ones I've spoken to who have come in with strong convictions, they actually say that they feel like they have more leeway now, just being exposed to everyone and ideas. And in general, you know, in the startup ecosystem, they emphasize a lot that pivoting is inevitable. So being too married to an idea essentially is not as significant as having the right team form that can basically overcome any obstacle.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Also, another thing that I was pleasantly surprised by was the diversity of the people in our cohort.
Yes.
Like, there's people from various levels of experience, career trajectories, backgrounds.
Yes.
Right? Were you impressed?
I was beyond impressed. I think I
Yeah.
was having this conversation with someone else in the cohort, and they said a very interesting thing. They're like, if I were to individually go out and try to meet these 70 people,
Yeah.
like just, you know, because I want to do it, it's my life's purpose, it would have taken me years
Yeah.
to even like come in contact with all of these people, and to be handed this opportunity to walk into a room one day and be, you know, surrounded by so many people from so many
Yeah.
different backgrounds, and, you know, have so much to learn from each conversation is insane. I was
Yeah.
in one morning I was talking to someone about wealth managers and how to help them, and then I walk out of that room and 2 minutes in I'm listening to someone trying to solve like agricultural problems with
Yeah.
mechanical bees. And I'm like, the range is
Yeah.
insane, right? So, yeah, I think the beyond impressed is
Yeah.
where I stand there. It's just insane how the quality of people Antler picked.
Yes. And since they interviewed all of us, they obviously identified some common values. So
Yeah.
the fact is also that the people that we
Work
interact
with, yeah.
with in this cohort, we already have such similar like core
Values,
that
yeah.
we're gonna hit it off with anyone,
Yeah.
even if like, you know, our industries or whatever
Yeah.
are so different.
That is
and
true.
then I remember one piece of advice they gave us last week as well was to really get to know your cohort. So I'm trying to essentially not make an error, which I think I could, which is I try to be heads down and focus on a project or problem.
Yeah.
And not even that I don't form a good co-founding team, but I just essentially ignore the 70 amazing people in
Yes.
the cohort. And I think the best use of Antler in this experience would be creating like good relationships with each person
one of them,
in
yeah.
this cohort.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree. I feel the same way, but here's a question to you because I'm personally like battling with this. There's one side of me that goes like, yes, I definitely want to like connect and learn and form these strong relationships with people because it's not just an Antler thing. Like if you have a strong relationship with them, it's for life or
Yeah.
however long you decide to, you know, commit to it, right? So that's one part. And then the other part is we're still on clock. Right?
Yeah.
So I know they were very, very clear in giving us the feedback that don't feel FOMO. Don't look at what others are doing
Right.
because this is not you know, a sprint, it's a marathon. And you know, if your goal is to get just Antler funding and leave, that's different. But if you're really here to build a company, then focus on it and like take your time and stuff. But at the same time, there's also like, hey, week 7, week 8,
Right.
you know. So they have told us not to feel FOMO, but I
They
do
they
feel
incite
FOMO,
sometimes.
right?
Yeah.
And you have to keep reminding yourself it's okay, it's all right. But
Yeah.
how are you handling those two parts or like those opposing, I don't know, feelings?
Yes. I don't know if you remember, but there was a presentation slide that they showed us last week where they showcased past successful Antler teams.
Yes.
And one of the slides was this team who on the first day
300 calls?
Yeah, did 300 calls. So that conflicts with getting
Exactly.
to really know your cohort.
Yeah.
But so I've been thinking about these dichotomies and how we're supposed to know how to operate within them. I think opposites are present everywhere in life.
Yeah,
And
that is true.
there is no like straight linear path towards something. And I think striking a fine balance yourself is like the best way to learn how to operate within it, because there isn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't just know
That's
your cohort, and you shouldn't just work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a tight rope to walk on. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I also wanted to talk about. Oh, I guess we should give a bit more background. Sorry, we didn't do this in the intro for people who don't know Antler. It's 10 weeks.
Yes.
So we just
Phase
did the
1
first
is
week.
10 weeks, and we just completed week 1,
Yeah.
and we effectively have 9 more weeks to go.
Yeah.
But we do have an investment committee. I think week 8.
Yeah, 7, right?
Week 7 or week
Okay.
8, one of
Okay.
them. And so that's the week where we present our ideas to the investment committee. They vet it and they see, you know, how viable the idea is, and
Yeah.
if it is, then they give us the, you know, we're allowed to raise money or they fund us for the project.
Yeah.
So it is 10 weeks, but really it's like 6-7
Yeah.
weeks long. Not that they pretend like they don't know you after week
Yeah.
7. They're always there. We saw so many past cohort members come back and like talk to them and
Right.
are part of this program too, are part of this
that was
cohort.
interesting.
Yeah, so they don't leave you to fend for yourself, but
Yeah.
the programmed structure is kind of, it ends in week 7 or 8.
Yeah, they also said they're going to start tracking people, or I don't know if tracking out people is the right word, but by week 7 or 8, there is actually a bit of more pressure to create something that is venture scalable or work towards something that has that promise. And if it's apparent that, you know, you're not going there, and for legitimate reasons sometimes. Maybe you realize you don't want to solve a venture problem, you just want to solve another type of problem. Then they will essentially ask you to leave, essentially. But I think it's fair because they just want to dedicate more of their time, resources, and attention to the smaller group of cohort, because we're 70 people right now. And
I think it's the largest cohort in Canada so far, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think they mentioned that. So I think at the end of the day, they're also a VC firm, right? They have goals, they have numbers, they have KPIs to hit. So they want to make sure that they are supporting people who want to build a venture backable business. Not that other businesses are bad. It's just that a venture backable business is a very different type of beast to tackle. And they're best equipped to help you tackle that beast. So they want to make sure that they're helping the people they truly can help.
And we did an exercise last week called the design sprint, where we got put into. I loved that. Yeah, it was really good, right? Because we actually got to do work and see each other's work styles. But essentially, the design sprint was being put into a random group of 6 people and trying to come up with a pitch by the end of the 3 hours that addressed a problem that was a venture problem, and how it defined it was that it had 1 billion touch points a year. Or it affected 1 million people 1,000 times.
And they put us in preformed groups, and we had to figure out what area we want to work on, the logo, what the solution is going to be, and then present at the end of it. And how did you feel about that? Not just the preparation part, but also the presentations. How did you see them or view them?
So I think it helped me understand what venture is at with a better perspective. I think prior I might have even been a bit more biased against venture, because I thought that, you just want to make
money.
Yeah, exactly. And nothing else essentially. But now I actually respect it more for what it is. If you want to create a company and you want to go down the venture route, this is exactly the definition of what you're trying to create. If you don't do venture, you can bootstrap yourself, you can create any type of business model. And perhaps there should be more resources and boot camps and stuff dedicated to creating that type of business as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And tech is dominated a lot by the venture perspective. But at the same time, I feel like my personality is more suited to venture than it is to non-venture. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And that's right. It's just the type of problems they view, it gave me more visibility into that. And also the way they think. We gave a presentation, and there were, the directors of the Antler program, they were there asking us questions. Very similar to the ones that we could expect from an actual investor or partner at a VC firm. So that was very insightful for me, because it helped me understand how they view things, what lens do they view it through. It's not just how innovative the solution is, but it's also how scalable it is, how technologically possible that is, and also how the team works together, as you said, is how are they uniquely positioned to solve this problem. And if you're not, that doesn't put you out of the race, but what are you doing to make up for it? So if I don't have the expertise or the subject matter expertise, how much work have I put in? How much do I consume and read about the problem that I'm trying to solve? I remember specifically this one thing that they told us about an ex-cohort founder who raised with Antler, that if you asked her about the problem she was solving, she can talk for 12 hours nonstop. So I was like, okay, so they just want to know how invested you are in the problem. You might not come from that background, but if you've put in the work to know as much as someone in the industry itself, then they know. That's why they say Antler is founders first. They're looking at your potential rather than, a little bit of what you've done in the past too, but more on your potential, and they're priming you in that way. So it really gave me a sense of, what would IC look like, or the investment committee would look like. It would be a lot more intense, I'm sure. But it gave me a little bit of taste into that, and I was like, That's very insightful. So
I remember YC did an experiment a particular year where I believe they like set a metric to or something to, but they were very intentional in accepting founders just based on an idea and not based on what they've actually built. And that experiment really worked out for them.
Oh, okay.
So they found exactly that the person is more important than a specific idea. And I think Antler takes that even to a further extreme.
Yes.
Where it's like, okay, we're just going to get essentially 70 individuals. We're going to put them in the right conditions for them to form strong teams where they have shared values, chemistry.
Yeah.
And then
true.
The thing they actually emphasize less is like complementary skills. They think that's not as important as like the other foundational stuff.
Yeah, I think it's also because they understand everyone works in their own way.
Yeah.
So it is on us to figure out complementary work styles. That's what I feel like. But yeah, I completely agree with you. And also, I've heard Bernie and Naman say that ideas are worth a penny.
Yeah.
Like, you know? And if someone else presents your idea at this design sprint, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, it's all in the execution. So if you want, you can take one of the ideas that was presented in the design sprint. It might not be yours, but then you can make it your own and then run with it and execute it.
Right.
Because execution is what matters.
Right.
And I've heard that before, but after coming to Antler, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
You see more and more.
Yeah, because there were so many people who were working on ideas that I had somewhere thought of, or, you know, I was like, oh, that's an interesting area. Maybe we should do it this way. But today, I didn't act on it, so I don't have anything to show for it, right? So then I was like, yeah, ideas are worth a penny. Like, everyone can come up with ideas. Only when you start working on them, you're like, oh, this doesn't work the way I thought it would. And you learn about it, and you try to build a system that actually scales in the real world. So it became concrete to me then.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that you can essentially stop anyone on the street. Literally, you can like stereotype and be like, all right, let me pick the person who seems like they would be lowest on a socioeconomic scale. And you can ask them, do you have a business idea? And a lot of them will actually have really good business ideas, right?
Yes.
And the only difference between ideas and like
businesses
is like execution.
Yes, execution.
Which seems really naive to say, but I feel like even as we are saying this, in the back of our minds, we are still fixated a little bit on I need to create a great product, which comes from a unique insight and creative idea, you know?
Yes, 100%.
So we can acknowledge 100%. It, but we're still tempted to.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Even though I see that, I'm still like, oh, I still need to have this amazing $1 million idea.
Right, yeah.
And then you need to keep reminding yourself that there's actually, I don't think there's $1 million idea ever. I think there's $1 million execution of an idea sort of thing. But there's never $1 million, because the idea in and of itself doesn't make you millions.
Okay,
right?
So Naaman last week said that there is actually an interesting component of creating a business or company. He said that, okay, I think there was 3 components. Is there a market for it? Are you the right team to build it? And then do you have some unique insight that is different? Yeah, so that insight portion kind of alludes to an idea.
Yes. Yes, but also, for example, you could have an idea that seems repetitive and you've heard it 1,000 times, but it is different because you know something the other person doesn't. And that for example, a marketplace, right? Let's just take an example. And that's such a hard idea. Everyone has marketplaces, etc. But maybe there's an insight that people in Asia, surf marketplaces differently than people in North America.
Yeah.
Right? They tend to open links in tabs versus go through each and every link one by one and come back to the page.
Okay.
So if you're able to build a marketplace around that behavioral insight, it tends to take off.
So insight is not necessarily a random idea. It could be brought about by analysis.
Exactly.
Or etc.
Yeah.
Which is again it's an emphasis on action taking rather than just sitting and waiting
ideating.
for something
Yeah.
to happen. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk a bit more about the design sprints. How did you feel as you were, a member of this 6-person group? Did you feel like you, like you pronounced yourself enough? Did you contribute as much as you wanted, or were there like some challenges and hurdles?
I think so. And when I feel comfortable, I tend to like take over. So for me, it was the opposite, where I was like, no, I need to scale back. And I need to hear everyone out, and I was very conscious of that. I was very intentional about putting in my idea and then like leaving it and saying, hey, if you want, pick it up, absorb it. And we also put a system in place where we'll be very fair when it comes to picking the idea and picking solutions. And so that really helped for me. And another part was I'm good at the ideating, I'm good at the marketing and all of that. Technology, like technical stuff, do not ask me, right? So I saw that in the initial stages, like there were a couple of us that took the conversation ahead, but then when it came time to actually talk about the technology and how it needs to build, there were other people who took over. So that was good. I think that worked out really great for us. But for me, it was like I had to keep in mind that I shouldn't be dominating the conversation, even in parts where I might have had more insight than the others given my background.
Yeah.
So it was the opposite for me. But even during the technology conversation, I did see who spoke up more versus who was very like, yeah, this is all right. Like, I don't need to contribute. So I saw the difference in work styles and attitudes that came by. So
I relate to that. And one part of me also wonders if it's more of a woman thing, which is let's be considerate and let's not take up so much attention and space.
Yeah.
Because especially in the past, I used to be way more controlling and worried about having a good outcome. In this project, the first thing I did was essentially derive notes from the instruction slides they gave us, and the objective they laid out clearly for this was to get to know your working style with other people. Like, what is it like to work with other people?
Yeah.
So I was trying to make sure that I was prioritizing that over, like, make sure the pitch is good, Because that part, like, we still get caught up in it, but again, it's not significant. This is like, it's 3 hours, you do a pitch in front of a cohort and your cohort, and essentially that's it. And there's so many of us, like there's 70 people that you're like, oh, but you're pitching in front of the partners and you want to make an impression.
Yes.
They don't remember.
Yes. Absolutely.
So I really tried not emphasizing the things that were not a priority, like, oh no, that's a stupid idea, like we should do this because this is more viable. Viable and what? So I was like, I was trying to be conscious of that.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Even when it came to the pitch, right, I was like, oh yeah, we have everything, but I need to do X, Y, Z to beef up the pitch. Like, I need to make sure that it's good. I need to make sure that I'm on time so that everyone gets a chance to speak because everyone had to present and all that. But I think when push came to shove, you're more like, oh, how good was the exercise for you to figure out who you want to work with. So that perfectionist of in me, I sat down and I was like, oh man, the presentation could have been much better. And then I was like, wait, but that wasn't the point. The goal of this whole exercise. So it was a lot of self-talk and rewriting the script of sorts for me. So
which is why I really enjoyed the exercise.
Yes.
I was going to ask you what you would do differently because we have another design sprint. And one thing that immediately jumps to me that I would do differently is, so I think I laid back too much, and also I was trying to be a moderator and facilitator and keep people on track. But I think this time around, I want to be more, when we get to do the pitching, I kind of want to like pitch something that I came to and that I can speak confidently about. So less like, which kind of sounds bad when I say it now, but less, yeah, like I feel like I didn't apply myself enough.
Mm.
I was leaning back too much and like
Got
seeing
it.
how everyone else
Yeah.
worked and operated. But now that I've observed and learned, I
Yeah.
need to balance like proactiveness
Yeah.
with also not taking it so seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I think that's something I would do when it comes to like the post presentation
Okay.
part for me. I think before the presentation it was fine. Like I was still able to like focus on people and
Right.
figure out, oh, my working style works best with this
Right.
person, or not so much with this person, even though this person is like has an illustrious background and has done so much.
Right.
Like for me, I think it would more so be taking an active part in the conversation where technology is involved, even though I don't understand a lot of the technology.
Yeah.
Like there were times when I wanted to ask more questions, saying, "Hey, like I saw these two other companies that look like competitors, but I don't know if they're really competitors because they talk about a technological differentiation. Like, is that real? Are we trying to build something different than them? Like, I did not ask them all that.
Right.
So I had a lot of faith in the problem
Yeah.
versus the solution that we were
Same.
trying to build.
Us, same.
Because we didn't get a lot of time to parse out the technology
Yeah.
or the solution piece.
Right.
I think that's one thing I would do differently. Focus less on, yes, obviously when you're picking the problem, it's good.
Right.
But we spent a lot of time picking the problem. So
Right.
spend a little less time picking the problem because you understand that it's an exercise at the end of the day, and focus on the solution part and building the USP part.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's what I would do differently in another design sprint
Okay.
if we're given the chance to.
I think. Oh, maybe they took it off the calendar.
I don't know. I didn't check that, but
And
yeah.
then, all right, maybe this will be the last question. We'll keep it light for
Yeah.
the first episode.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to this week? Do you have any goals? How are you going to approach the week?
I think my goal for this one would be to at least find prospects with whom I would like to track out with.
Okay.
So tracking out is basically the process where you pick a co-founder and you say, "Hey, you're my team. Let's make this official and let's start working." Right. Last week, and I think even now, I'm very fixed. I'm like, "Oh, I don't have an idea. I don't have an idea. I don't have an idea."
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now I want to change the script and say, "Oh, who can I work with?
Yeah.
Who can I?" I've had a lot of conversations, and I have, seen, okay, this person seems nice, and like our conversations flow. But now I want to focus more on like, hey, can we actually work together?
Yeah.
Even if we don't have an idea right now, how can we work together so we can get to that idea and then get started? Like I think that needs to switch for me. So I'm going to focus more on that this week.
But don't you think, this is my perspective, you need a baseline to gauge the true ability of you being able to work with someone? Because you know how they say you can't create effective businesses with your friends. So it could be the case that, like for instance, me and you, we really like talking to each other and we vibe.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my god, we'd make a great company, right?
And
then we have a project on the table and we're actually trying to execute and take actions.
Mm-hmm.
And then it, like
we're
either
work. Poles apart or we're too similar for our own good. Like yeah, I get that. Which is why I'm like, I want to get to know them. So what happened last week was we had a lot of conversations and we were like, oh, interest areas, accomplishments, technical, non-technical, all of it. But I still feel like we know people at a surface level. Mm-hmm. Whereas design sprint people, I know at a level deeper.
Yeah, deeper.
So I'm like, how can I replicate that in my own time to figure out who I work well with?
You know how I think, or my approach to replicating that is, I don't know my main, North Star or idea I want to bring into fruition, but I know projects of interest. Like I spent time coding this weekend. Mm-hmm. So I have light ideas and light projects where I'm de-emphasizing the actual project, but I'm emphasizing working with someone on that project.
Nice.
So I think that's one approach rather than having nothing. Have a non-serious thing you're not committed to, but like a baseline, right? Yeah. And then be like, hey, what do you think of this? Or like, do you want to iterate on this? And I think that will give
that's a good idea.
A more productive, outcome than just talking.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Actually, like, maybe I will steal that. And like,
Yeah.
because I have an interest area, and if time permits, I think we all have to go up and speak about
Yeah.
the idea that we want to work on, our problem
Yeah.
area. So I'm going to pitch that in front of the crowd today.
Yeah.
And then like go to people and say, hey, I don't really have a solution to this problem,
Yeah.
but here are a few ways that I think we can do it. What do you think? And
Yeah.
then see if they're even interested, or if they are, how do they think?
Yeah.
More so than
Right.
not the what. I think
Yeah.
we figured out the what of
True.
people last week, and now
Yeah.
I want to know the how.
Yeah.
And do you know the Simon Sinek thing? Like, you lead with why
I
and then
love
how
that
and
book.
what.
I love that book.
Yeah, so I mean the core needs to be why, but I
Yeah.
think we're in the second layer, and we're
Yeah.
gonna focus on the how this week, and then get to
Right.
why hopefully this weekend, so we have
No,
some
the
time.
why comes first, and then the
I
how,
know.
and then the what.
I know, but like I think we started the other way around anyway,
Okay,
like
alright,
you know.
alright, that makes
So,
sense. That's true. We started
yeah.
on the what. Okay,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
So for myself this week, I want to spend more time essentially reflecting on everything I'm learning, so I can
Yeah.
strategically
Make moves.
exactly
Yeah.
like strategically plan my days, approach people.
Yeah.
I also want to be we had a few previous members of the cohort come and give a panel discussion, and one of the things the girl said, I don't know if you remember, but she said that she was very anal about how she analyzed the people in the
Yes,
cohort.
yes.
And she created a spreadsheet
Yes.
essentially to help organize her thoughts and create a really good team. So I want to be more intentional with how I'm approaching everyone.
Mhm.
I want to have some type of work or project, which I kind of do already, that binds, that I can bind with someone based on that work.
Yeah.
And then third is I need to gain a stronger conviction of what I want to do with my career and life, essentially. Like, what is
Yes.
the future that I envision for myself, and what is the output of the work that I want to produce out into the world?
Fair. No, that's absolutely like true. It resonates with me as well.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's the same reason, but it's the other way around. Like, I came in with, so here's the thing that I have a Venn diagram in life, right? I'm like, what I want to build needs to help the environment, one.
Ikigai.
Yeah.
Your own ikigai.
Yes. Needs to serve me
Yeah.
financially, like life-wise, everything. Because at the end of the day, like, yes, it's great if, I already, I don't need to worry about that, but I do. Like, financially, we all need to. So it needs to help environment, it needs to help me financially, and also it needs to help people in general, right? So that's the three things, and then whatever comes in that tiny overlap area, I want to build there. For me, I already have that figured out, but now I'm like, is that pigeonholing me?
Right.
Like, do I need to get out of that and say, okay, like, maybe not all three, maybe two of them need to, work, and then we can
Yeah.
figure out the third one in a separate way, like, So I don't know. That I'm more so like, am I pigeonholing myself, and do I need to change my frame or let go of some things to let me be able to embrace this
Yeah.
experience more? So yeah.
This is that phenomenon of opposites again.
Yes.
There was a speaker that came and spoke to us, very accomplished, Chris.
Yes.
And he talked about how when he was creating his company, the thesis essentially he was testing or had was that the printing business would be replaced by internet.
Digital, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he went around, and that was like, he had a strong conviction. So therefore he could approach lots of people and get lots of no's and basically persevere through that.
Yeah.
So my own personal challenge is, how do you balance having a really strong conviction, but then being as flexible to
Yes.
things. So
Yes,
because
you nailed it.
You need the conviction. Like, every person who
Yeah.
has done anything significant in their life at one point believed something that everyone else didn't.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
But
yeah.
at the same time, if
You need to be
everyone-
flexible too.
If
Yeah.
everyone's giving you a particular, so you need to figure out a way to derive the wisdom of the crowd while also listening to yourself.
Yeah.
And again, it's a freaking fine balance.
Yeah. I think Shambhavi, who on the Antler team, she said that too. She's like, you need to have conviction on what you're building, even when others don't.
Yeah.
But
which includes them, which includes
which
the
includes
Antler.
them too, because they're you know battle testing you for the
Yeah.
world. So I get that. But on the other hand, you also need to be flexible to pivot when you know it's not working.
Yeah.
So then in my head I'm like, so when do we do what?
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's a question that keeps going on in my head, and I think that's where your gut comes into play. And you're like, my gut tells me that this is an important problem to solve. It might be difficult. It might seem like it's not working out, but you need to keep chipping away at it, and then
Yeah.
it will work out. So we'll see how advanced our guts are and how we can figure that out. But so far, so good. Week 1. I think we're doing well.
Yes. All right. I think we should wrap it up
Yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm.
This was a really nice conversation. I hope it was
Yeah.
helpful for the person watching on the other end of the screen.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I hope this gives you a little bit of insight into what the journey will be like, not just from the program perspective, but also from like the emotional and mental
Yeah.
perspective of what are the battles you will go through, or what are the internal dilemmas that you will face when you are going through this program.
Overall, I would say, and I'll speak for you here too, is that no regrets about committing to Antler so far. It's
Absolutely
an amazing
none.
program that gives you the right amount of room to trust your intuition and lead by that, but also gives you enough guidance and resources and support. So no regrets joining so far.
None.
Amazing. And
Amazing.
I'm looking forward to the coming weeks.
Yeah, week 2, we're ready.
So if you have an opportunity, especially for the Antler Canada channel,
go for it.
Yeah, definitely go for it.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much, and I hope you guys had fun. I surely did. Yeah.
All right, bye.